Uniform Bravo, serving as net control for the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net. This net meets each Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time and is open to all amateur radio operators interested in emergency communications. The primary purpose of the net is to provide the opportunity for members to test equipment, exchange traffic news, opinions and information, with additional information on the RAYNET-UK website at www.raynet-uk.net. This is a directed net, which means all calls are to be made to the net control station unless you are instructed otherwise, and all RAYNET-UK operators are invited and encouraged to check into the net. When you do check in, please announce your call sign slowly and phonetically, followed by your name, and if you wish to leave the net immediately after checking in, then please call in and out. Otherwise, if you want to leave after that time, then please make it clear you want to check out when you make your announcement. After I've heard a few check-ins, I'll pause and repeat who I've heard. If you're not acknowledged, then please do try again. And if you miss your turn to call in, please call at the strays section, which will be after the UK and international call-ins. I'll now begin taking check-ins to the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net as usual in call sign number order. So any stations with figure 8 in their call sign wanting to check in, please call now. This is G4NRC.
Golf 8 Echo Yankee, G8 EEY, name is Mike. Golf 8 Sierra Delta Uniform, name is Bob. Good afternoon, Greg from sunny Norfolk. Nothing else to add, just in and out please. G at SDU.
G4NRC, good afternoon, Bob. Golf 8 Sierra Delta Uniform. Copy to you is in and out. And Mike, Golf 8 Echo Yankee, is staying with us. Any other 8s, please? G4NRC, over. G4NRC, no 8s, let's have 7s. Stations figure 7 in their call sign, please go ahead, over.
Mike 7 Victor Sierra Delta, name is Stephen, Dame Valley Group.
Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, G7 NEH, Graham.
G4NRC, good afternoon, Stephen. Mike 7 Victor Sierra Delta and Graham Golf 7 November Echo Hotel. Any other 7s, please? G4NRC, over. G4NRC, then it's the 6s. Let's have stations figure 6 in their call sign. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, second call for any stations figure 6 in their call sign. Please go ahead, over. G4NRC, no 6s, let's have 5s. Stations figure 5 in their call sign. Please go ahead, over. G4NRC, we don't have many 5s, so let's go for 4s. Stations figure 4 in their call sign. Please go ahead, over. Hotel Uniform Foxtrot, G4HUF, Phil.
G4XUR X-Ray Uniform Romeo, name's Dave, and location Somerset.
Go 4 Kilo, Uniform Juliet.
For an RC, so I've got Phil, G4HUF, David, G4XUR, and Trevor, G4KUJ. Any other fours, please, over. An RC, nothing heard, so let's have 3, stations figure 3 in that call sign, please go ahead, over. For an RC, second call, any stations figure 3 in that call sign, please go ahead, over. For an RC, nothing heard, so it's 2, stations figure 2 in their call sign, and that includes you, intermediate 2s, so please call now, G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, second call, any stations figure 2 in their call sign, including intermediate 2s, G4 and RC, over. For an RC, then let's have 1, stations figure 1 in their call sign, please go ahead, over. For an RC, second call, any stations figure 1 in their call sign to check in, please call now, over. G4 and RC, then let's have Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please call now, over.
Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, hello, sorry.
For an RC, Alan, Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, acknowledged. Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, you were doubled with, you'd like to try again, over. Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, true, in and out today, Greg. For an RC, acknowledged. Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, in and out. Any other Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please, over. For an RC, nothing heard, so let's have Golf 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, over.
Golf Whiskey 0, Juliet Lima X-Ray. Good afternoon, Greg. No traffic today, so we're in and out, please, from Andy, RAYNET Pembrokeshire.
JLX, G4 and RC. Good afternoon, Andy. As usual, copied you in and out, but thanks for being there. And let's have any UK station and the UK station who's missed their turn to call in. Please call now, over. G4 and RC, do we have any of our international colleagues with us today? That's usually Noord-Samband of Norway, Aaron in Ireland, Aries in Slovakia, Des in the Netherlands. Any of our international friends? G4 and RC, over.
Lima for 16 Mike, name is Hans, in and out, Greg.
Alpha 6 India, Mike. Good afternoon, Hans, and thanks for checking in and acknowledged in and out. So, any station, UK or international, who's missed their turn to check in, please call now, G4 and RC, over. G4NRC, nothing heard. Okay, good afternoon everybody. Usual reminder, this net is being live streamed by Graham G7NEH to YouTube today. Past live streams and recordings are available by searching G7NEH, that's Golf 7 November Echo Hotel on YouTube. And if you'd hit the like and subscribe buttons on his YouTube channel, he'd much appreciate it so we know the service is still useful. Hidden slightly in the news this week were the announcements of the formal inquiry into the wide area power outages which affected Spain and Portugal a couple of weeks ago, along with the interim report into the power outage which affected Heathrow Airport in March. As expected, there's nothing in either report which identifies the root cause of either outage, as forensic examination takes time. Both announcements, though, confirmed the overall timeline of events. And for Spain and Portugal, this included the information that the European grid had experienced a couple of instabilities in the 30 minutes leading up to the failure, but both were adequately managed and the grid was stable at the time of the incident. The timeline for failure, though, when the Iberian Peninsula network collapsed, was just 27 seconds from the trigger event to the collapse of the grid in those countries. Say again, 27 seconds. Once networks fail, we may start to look to other countries to find essential information, but it has been announced that one service, the VolMet, or meteorological service provided by Gander International Flight Service Station in Newfoundland, will be closing on the 12th of June. As they say, quote, aviation technology has evolved to allow suitably equipped aircraft to acquire the meteorological information directly from alternate sources, end quote. VolMet stations have formed a useful propagation marker for HF stations, as well as being a source of weather information, with two of our own operating on 5 MHz, so it'll be a sad loss when those go. Finally, as a reminder, in plenty of time, an alternative net controller will be needed for the 18th of May, as West Cheshire has its first event of the year. If an alternative controller can't be found, then an announcement that the net won't be happening will be put out in the Friday news in the normal way. So with that, let's go around and see what thoughts people have got this week. Golf 8, Echo Echo Yankee, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC from G8EEY. Good afternoon, Greg. Good afternoon, all. Yep, it's a nice day today in sunny Norfolk. 23 centigrade, not exceptionally hot, but it'll do. 1011 millibars, 5% cloud cover, which is pretty minimal. But the relative humidity is down to 28%, so it's pretty dry. We've got 11 miles an hour wind from 99 degrees. We'll take the edge off the heat, I suppose. The only thing I've got from the Met Office is a storms warning for tomorrow, Monday, which covers most of the west of Zone 4. That's Beds, Herts and Essex. But otherwise, yeah, I'm trying to think where the substations caught fire in the UK today that's taken people's power away. Yeah, they do seem to be happening. From G8EEY.
Echo Yankee, G4 and RC returning. There's some sensitivities there, I suspect, because substations fail all the time around the country, and in many countries. One of the statistics I worked on a while ago sort of said there was a 1 in 10 year chance of a moderately complex network failure. If you looked at the reliability of every individual component in turn, there's an awful lot out there. It means you're not waiting 10 years for one to happen. There should be 1 or 2 happening every year at least. So yeah, I think that was possibly up in my area. But there was also one down in London, and that's the sensitivity bit. Once the press get hold of something, then they all make the news for a while. Noted the storm warning. I looked briefly earlier at the reports of thunderstorms moving into the southwest of the country, and I think anybody south of Preston might be getting showers and stuff, if I recall the weather forecast correctly, tomorrow, which will be quite heavy, and then the weather will clear up again. So good for people who had events today. Hopefully it'll all tidy up in time for our event next week. Okay, next to Stephen, Mike 7 Victor Sierra Delta G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC, this is Mike 7 Victor Sierra Delta. Very good afternoon to all on the net. Yeah, that's the thing with grid instability and loss of inertia. I know they keep having to revise the protection settings for the rate of change of frequency. The G99 standard is always being tweaked, having to desense the relays to sort of better discriminate between what is an actual fault and what is a normal grid occurrence. I remember telling me that those protection systems are rather touchy. He deals with them quite a lot, he's a senior electrical design engineer. And preparations full steam ahead for the RAF Cosford Air Show. We have our radio site clearances in place, and it's just down to what equipment we want to take now, so there'll be quite a list, I think. We've got 4 ground stations, Starlink, and lots of other kits to be setting up. So I should be going down the day before the air show to help out with that, over.
Sierra Delta G4 and RC returning. Okay, yeah, rock-off relays, I recall there've been a few changes to those. And let's see something, however, about changes to solar farms that would allow them to be what was called grid forming, so you didn't depend on rotating machinery to provide the inertia. So, like most things that evolve, they will get better as we learn from the experiences. Okay, on Cosford, just remember to take one more of everything you think you need, because it's going to be a long period, and losing a station part-way through or missing some essential bit of test gear never helps, but you'll have plenty of time to set up, so good luck with that. Right, let's see how the viewing figures are doing this week. Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC, G7NEH returning. Good afternoon, Greg. Good afternoon to all on the net. So, weather-wise, we've got a temperature of 24.9 here in Tarvin, and humidity of 32%, and a UV index of 5. 2 mile an hour wind, heading 85 degree east, according to my weather station. And viewing figures, we had quite good viewing figures on the last week's net, which was, well, I can open the app, 2 seconds. So last week's net, we had a total of 62 views and 3 likes, which is probably about the highest we've ever had, I think. And I'll look at this week's viewing figures on the next round. So there we go, G4 NRC, G7NEH.
G7NEH, G4 NRC. Okay, that provokes the question, was it absence that made the heart grow fonder, and giving a gap brought the viewers back? Interesting flip side to those stats is looking today, the number of connected peers onto the RAYNET-UK system is down to low 70s, whereas we have been mid-80s for the last couple of weeks. But I am thinking the good weather and starts of various holiday seasons is probably going to hit some of our attendances and connected stations for a while. Okay, thanks Graham. Look forward to today's figures later, and we'll go to the other side of our county to Phil. G4HUF, G4 and RC, over.
This is Golf 4 Hotel Uniform Foxtrot, G4HUF. Good afternoon, Greg, and to everybody else on the net. We're scribbling down 1 or 2 comments here. First one, probably the most important one, is I didn't instinctively go for my volume control to wind it down when Graham was talking. It's still definitely a bit louder than everybody else, but it's nowhere near. It sounds terrible what I say. It's nowhere near as bad as it has been previously. So, thanks for that, mate. That's appreciated. Right. And of course, talking about the threat of rain, good. We need it. With the situation as it's been so far in the country, with some parts of the country getting, I think I saw a graphic showing somewhere it's only got about 20% of its average rainfall so far this year. And I think it was in Mike's neck of the wood in East Anglia. But United Utilities are talking about asking people to start being careful with water consumption if we do continue to have a prolonged dry spell. So that's always worth bearing in mind. Other comments from me. I'm not even going to volunteer for next week, Greg, because guess what? It's our turn to feed again. So on the basis of keeping G7EYR sweet, we'll not volunteer our services. It just so happens that these last two times when you needed cover, it's been a case of it's always fallen on the wrong third week in the sequence as far as feeding is concerned. And for myself, I've had some progress and I've had some success. I've managed to get several radios reprogrammed, although interestingly enough, the one radio which has got the simplest interconnect between the radio and the computer, the IC700, which only requires a USB A to B, is the one that ain't playing. All the others that I've set up so far have needed their own dedicated leads. So on that basis, I've made some progress, but there's still a little way to go. Albeit that the 9700 is low on the list of priorities. I wanted to make sure that I've got everything sorted out in readiness for a fortnight's time. And of course, I'm waiting impatiently on the hope that we'll get details of where we're going to be allocated in the not too distant future. So with that, I shall pass it back, having concluded the Cheshire section of the net. Over.
G4HUF, G4NLC, returning. Okay, yeah, what I do think sometimes about mixing up the call in order from the numerical one, going around geographically has crossed my mind a couple of times, but some people might not truly know where they live or what they identify with. So, as you say, here under the Cheshire section, your comments about programming radios, well, yes, I've also accrued quite a few programming leads. They've all been labelled with suitable dymo tape, not the old embossed style, but now I'm finding that stuff's flaking off. So I've got a couple of unidentified ones that have lost their identity over a few years. So to be a void of exploration, but I next need to do some reprogramming. Okay, 3 to go on this turn, so it's David next. Golf 4, X-ray uniform Romeo, G4 and RC, over.
G4HY. Good afternoon, Greg, and to all others on the net. Sorry, I was just waiting for the YouTube to make sure I'd got in. This week, went back yesterday, duplexer tuning for the new 9 meg split went well for the two units that will be allocated for that duty. And a repair of another duplexer, which took quite a bit of fault finding. We had an issue on the last event and we swapped it out fairly quickly, but we have discovered that the solder connection to the coax tube that forms an essential part of duplexer tuning, i.e. the little tubes between the various filters, or cavities, shall I say, and resoldered the connection, and that appeared to be working okay. So spent the last night in the freezer, and we'll do until the middle of the week, and then it will go into a high temperature test. I'm not sure how we're going to do that. Possibly put it in the sun if it's out at the middle of the week, and then obviously test again. Temperature here is 22.5, so it's not so hot down in the bottom end of the country. Slight wind, but we've got predicted lightning overnight with the consequential bangs that follow. And just to confer with HUF, NEH's audio is not showing as much of an audio level extreme as it had previously, so something's moving. Fully readable and Q5. Okay, with that, back to you. Thank you very much. G4NRC. This is G4XUR.
4XUR, G4NRC. Okay, yeah, interesting piece of fault finding that. Easier on active components than somewhat passive ones like a duplexer. And good idea for the temperature cycling test, and as I recall, other than tonight, tomorrow, temperatures are supposed to be kicking up around the 20 degrees plus mark for most of the rest of the week as high pressure comes back into charge. So you might have some good luck just letting your duplexer bake outside to do the temperature cycling test. Okay, thanks for that, and the comments on NEH's audio as well. We'll go to Trevor, G4KUJ, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC in the group, G4KUJ, yes, good afternoon, Greg and everybody else. Had a fairly busy week this week. I did some tests on QO100 with Olivia, having realigned the dish and found a few dBs on receive. I thought I'd examine how far down I could get in transmit pad and still get a reasonable or a good readable Olivia signal back on that mode. And I found that I could get down to about 100 milliwatts out, 100 to 200 milliwatts, which is giving me something like minus 6 dB signal to noise ratio, so that was quite pleasing, and that's with a 800 centimetre dish. Arden, been quite busy on that. I've loaded the new release of firmware 3.25.5.0 on the AC3, some AR300s, and the HP Lite, and it certainly seems to have sorted out the problems that I was certainly having with the HP the Lite due to instability when it was running RF nodes. It seems to have cured that. Got one other station on down here now, that's G4PMD. We've got his setup sorted out from here. And a little anecdote, probably not worth mentioning, but I'm going for a world record on 2.4 gig we were testing his kit here with the RF mission at the time when the Supernode worldwide
G4KUJ, G4NRC, all after record on 2.4 gigahertz lost over.
That was a long one. Back to you, Greg, from G4KUJ.
G4KUJ, G4NRC, we lost all after record on 2.4 gigahertz due to your audio breaking up and then going non-existent, over.
Oh, that was basically all. I was just saying, don't believe everything you can see on the internet. Just proves that. Cheers. Back to you, Greg.
G4NRC, returning G4KUJ. Okay. Yes, well, I'm trying to think now. Your 100 milliwatts for Olivia data modes. I would still say go and have a look at Andreas Spice's video on YouTube, where he's taken an ESP32, I'm sure it was, microcontroller with a Wi-Fi socket on the side rather than the usual built-in antenna. I think he was putting 20 milliwatts in by using some very hacked-about firmware on the device to take it outside the normal Wi-Fi bands down to where QO100 was listening, and was putting some CW through the satellite. Very drifty, very bodgy, but very proving that the satellites are more sensitive than we think, and you don't need to be an alligator with a big mouth and small ears to operate them. So yeah, all good stuff, Trevor, and I'll try and remember on the next round about the French emergency comm station that's always there. Anyway, sadly rounding out this part of the net, always last on the list, Alan, Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, G4NRC, over.
Yeah, good afternoon, Greg. Good afternoon, everybody. I think I'll start calling in with my M6 JSA course on while I've still got it before Ofcom takes it away from me. That'll move me further up the list. But I want to show yes or on an event yesterday, local hospice midnight walk. Competitor set off at 9:45. The last one's got back about 1:30. Spent a happy evening in our control unit with Ian G0OZS, who we were talking about lots of things, including LDWA, and he was hoping to sit down and do the first part of the LDWA ops orders today. He's a very, very busy man, unfortunately, because he's also secretary of EMARS, but he's hoping to get that done. We've got the information back from the test walk last bank holiday weekend, so that's coming to follow fruition, we believe. It's getting there very well. The midnight walk went well, 700 competitors. I don't know how much money they raised. Everything worked fine. We used DMR handhelds loaned to the organisers on a PMR repeater, and all bar one of them worked flawlessly. They did mutter about the one that didn't work, and it turned out they were standing behind a metal building in line with a transmitter, so they was never going to work there. But if they'd have stepped to one side, it would have worked fine. Such is life. G4NRC, M0JSA, any questions on LDWA? I'll be happy to try my best to answer.
Right, okay, so see you tomorrow.
Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, G4NRC, returning. Well, that's just set you up for the next round when HUF gets to it. Yes, the person hiding behind a steel building did actually do that for fun one time on a test at work, because I was trying to break a system, so hid or even put the radio right into the webbing of an RSJ as part of a structure. I'm thinking, well, this should shield it on the three sides from the system, and still disappointingly managed to get through. So yeah, you can't always predict where the RF goes, but at least that test event has meant hopefully you won't be having similar issues for the LDWA, because you know where everybody's going to be. Okay, thanks, Alan. We shall do the second round and then let everybody get back to the sunshine. So, Mike, Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC from G8EY. Yes, I was still thinking about Trevor's, as he described it, 800 centimetre dish. I think he probably meant 80. I've worked with 2 metre dishes, they're big enough. And I do remember running a 2.6 gigahertz video link in Suffolk, which had to go through the legs of a lattice mast at about 1 mile distance. But yeah, got through it all right. Get interesting things with obstructions. The one thing I really notice is the number of times you get a lovely radio link set up, and then the ship moves out of the dock where you happen to be stationed, and the signal goes away because you've been doing a 180. Wonderful. Anyway, thanks for running the net, Greg, and well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for next week, because I'm not volunteering from G8EEY.
Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee G4NRC returning. Okay, sorry, just noting that one down. Okay, thanks Mike. Inevitably we'll therefore catch you on the COM meeting whenever it is this month. Still got to figure my calendar out for that. Okay, next it's Stephen for a final. Mike 7 Victor Sierra Delta G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, this is Mike 7 Victor Sierra Delta. Yes, my car will be suitably loaded up, shall we say, with gear for going down to Cosford. Interested on Mike's comments about having a video link. That's one of the ideas being batted about for the air show. That one of us will take a CCTV camera and put it up one of the masts, and actually use a mesh network to get the images back into the location where our station's set up, just to demonstrate a little bit of mesh networking as well, because that is coming in on the cadet training side. So we do have a want to sort of demonstrate that at the air show. Should be a really good day, and a really good setup for demonstrating our cyber and radio communications capability. So I'm looking forward to that myself. And with that, I shall pass it back and say thank you for running the net.
Mike 7 Victor Sierra Delta G4NRC returning. Okay, you've just triggered me into a just think about this, not legal advice, blah blah blah. If you're doing a video link, since it will be real time and not recorded anywhere, to avoid somebody coming to the station complaining and wanting their image removed, I note that the IET, that's the Institute of Engineering and Technology, have a live stream from the top of their building on Savoy Place, and it clearly states this is a live stream. Images are not recorded for any purposes or at all. So it is purely live. So yeah, it'd be a great demo of a mesh network. Could just be slightly messed up if somebody gets strongly wanting to have their image removed when you don't have that requirement. So I noticed this on the IET website a little while ago and thought, yeah, if we're doing that kind of video streaming, saying it's not recorded would avoid somebody trying to be a big boy on GDPR. Okay, thanks Stephen. No doubt we'll hear more about that as time goes on, and we'll go to Graham for the current viewing figures. G7NEH, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, G7NEH, yeah, no problem. So the current viewing figures this week, in total we've had 10 views. There are 3 currently viewing, one of which is Ian, G3ZHX, who's still waiting for parts for his handheld to arrive. So yeah, that's about it from here. So yeah, thanks for doing the net, Greg, and I was just thinking I may be back, I'm guessing, for next week's net, in the absence of any other volunteers, because the half marathon shouldn't be shouldn't go on till 4. I'm guessing. So maybe you want to think about G4NRC G7NEH.
G7NEH, G4NRC. Yeah, okay. Sorry, just had to check and make sure we've got the other end of the Brandmeister bridge. Yeah, that'll work, Graham. I'm just thinking that I'm up that much earlier since the control location locks its doors at whatever it was, 7:30 or 8:30. So yes, you should be able to get away quicker from your location and get back home, whereas I will probably want to decamp and then take stuff back to the storage unit, giving me a longer day. So yeah, if you're up for it, not a problem. Trevor is helping a little bit with the logging today, so everything's there, and if it's going to go ahead, then I will put some offending information into the sheet over the course of the week to provide some news. So okay, we'll talk about that as we talk about the half marathon through the week. Okay, thanks Graham, and 732 Ian, G3ZHX as well. Right, next to Phil, G4HUF, G4NRC, over.
This is G4HUF. Right, okay. Well, Alan Walks felt very brave, didn't he? Volunteering to address any questions. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't got any questions. I'm just going to come down armed with as much kit as I think that I'm likely to need, including a bit of test equipment, which hopefully I will not need to worry about. My only issue with regard to that is the sooner I can find out where we're going to be allocated, then I can plan my weekend. I mean, I've booked into a hotel for several days, and if the free day or free time coincides properly, then obviously we need to plan a possible visit. I mean, the Radar Museum of Bordsey is interesting, but if my checkpoint is Sunday and Monday, then we can forget that one. But anyway, do not let that influence any decisions, please, Alan. I will work with you, and then as far as our other activity is concerned, we'll work around you. The important bit, of course, is that we've got the visit to the school organised on the Friday, and I'm looking forward to that. A couple of other comments I was going to make. First of all, I forgot to give the weather report from Manchester ATIS, which I downloaded just before the net started, and the weather conditions: 130 degrees, 7 knots, with a QNH of 1010, and a temperature of plus 23 with no cloud detected, to use the terms. So it's not so bad here either. Final comment: label makers. Yes, I can appreciate what you're saying with regard to the Dymo label maker. I've got one or two labels that are peeling off under similar circumstances from a Dymo label maker, but I'm afraid I went a little bit extravagant. I've actually invested in one of those brother label makers, because you can actually print out heat shrink sleeving to put onto cables to create your own labelled up heat shrink sleeves, so you can identify your connections. The only trouble is they do seem to spew out a little bit too much blank tape before they start printing, so it does tend to be a little bit expensive. And as far as the performance is concerned, I haven't made a decision as to whether or not they're likely to peel the same way as the Dymo labels do. I haven't had it long enough. So that's it from me. I've done. Thanks for running the net, and nice to talk to everybody on the net. So I shall shut up and listen round and pass it back. So G4NRC, this is G4HUF.
G4NRC returning. Yeah, I've had run-ins with all sorts of label makers professionally, including the heat-shrinky ones, but was thinking I was just going to have to give in and do what I saw somebody else do, which was label it, then put coloured tape on it, and then put clear heat shrink over the top, and if something fails, fades, or otherwise, is I've got at least two methods of trying to identify what the lead was for. So yeah, all noted, and they are exuberant in how much tape they push out. But I think that's the same with all the label makers. They want you to buy their tapes. Okay, we have 3 to go, and it's a final from David. G4XUR, G4NRC, over.
Report here. Know what you mean with labels falling off, etc.
G4XUR, G4NRC, only getting a couple of words from you, David, over. G4XUR, G4NRC, only had 2 or 3 words from you then, David, over.
Yeah, I think there's a net issues.
G4NRC, G4XUR, yeah, it's getting through the bridge okay, so it must be local to yourself. Anyway, gathered you've experienced similar issues with labels dropping off, but we didn't get much more than that. If you can fit it in 3 words or less, anything further, David, over. G4NRC, nothing seen on the Brandmeister side of the bridge, so I'm guessing not. Okay, G4KUJ, round to you for a final, Trevor. G4NRC, over.
G4NRC in the group, G4QJ. Yep, okay, all round. Nothing, I don't think, on the radio front still to report. Oh, just one question. Is there, do you know if there's an issue with the emails to registrations? Because I sent mine off last week and heard nothing back, which is very unusual from Jill. You usually get something back the next day. And of paper money as well. Nothing further. Catch you down a bit later on in the week, I guess. G4NRC, G4KUJ.
KUJ, G4NRC returning. No email issues. I'm going to be in a similar boat. I've got 2 new members to sign up. They won't be in time for the event next Sunday, pretty much gathering that. But unless she's still working through the backlog of the outage reported last week, where there was an outage issue. But no, nothing further, Trevor. So suggest try again or wait 2 or 3 days. Certainly didn't see anything on the Facebook group, which seems to be the only way that gets reported. Okay, yeah, we'll catch up with you through the week. I've still got one message for you, by the way, on hand to be passed on via Pactor. Okay, rounding off the net today, it's Alan, Mike 0 Juliet Sierra Alpha, G4 and RC, over.
Indeed, as I returning. Yes, Phil, I appreciate what you're saying. If you're any of the wise, I spent 5 hours with Ian last night in the control, and I still don't know what I'm doing on that weekend. I believe I'm going to be unallocated on the east side of Suffolk to be able to go over anywhere required any time over the second half of the walk. But that remains to be seen. With the test walk they done last bank holiday, I'm not sure they started at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, but the first people were back at 2:30 the following day in the afternoon. So they did quite well. But they got back and the tail enders were still at up on the coast, up Oldborough Way. So still a fair way to go for them. The tracking system they use is amazing. I'm really impressed by that. It tells you where everybody is, how fast they're going, and when they're going to get to the next checkpoint, which is quite a fantastic piece of software they're using for that. But that's where that is. As for label machines, I've got a brother P-Touch I've had for a long while. Sadly, it's now died because I drove over it with a Land Rover. It was in the flight case, but the flight case didn't survive either. But you can adjust the tail length of the tape on them. You can say how much to put at the beginning and the end, so perhaps that would reduce the amount of stock used to print the heat shrink labels. Just have to dive into the settings. You can, I believe, set it to none. So all you get is the letters. Thanks for running the net, Greg. Thanks for everybody else for being on as well. There's glorious sunshine here in East Suffolk at the moment. Clear blue sky. Hopefully that'll last to the LDWA. But it's quite chilly because we're on the east coast and that's where the wind is. But in the sun, out of the wind, that's lovely. Bless every for you all. G4NRC, SM0JSA in the group.
Say G4NRC returning. Okay then, well yes, I think we're all hoping that the good weather persists now, although recalling the comment about droughts from Phil, I did see something from one of the European statistics websites which was highlighting quite a large part of the UK was at high risk of drought, which didn't seem to match the messaging we were getting from our local water boards, who were just looking at taking some defensive measures. So, yeah, as always, situational awareness, keep your eyes on everything and you won't be surprised. Okay, we shall bring it to a close on this fine sunny day, so thanks everybody for taking time out of schedules to take part. Be careful, have a good week, and until next Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time, I will close the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net and return talk groups 23531 on Pheonix and Brandmeister and 50 23531 on the RAYNET-UK system to being an open net rather than a directed net. 7-3 all, this is G4NRC now closing and reverting to my normal call sign of Golf 0 Delta Uniform Bravo. Bye bye.